Before Columbus, Native American societies thrived for thousands of years, developing complex systems of governance. Their rich cultures and established communities spanned the continent. Early European explorations sought trade routes, especially to India. Columbus's discovery opened a new frontier, paving the way for vast territorial colonization. The establishment of permanent colonies faced numerous challenges, including hostile encounters with Native Americans. Early settlements like Jamestown and Plymouth were instrumental in shaping American history. Spain and France competed for control over North America, establishing settlements and trade routes to bolster their empires. Cities like New Orleans exemplified this fierce competition for resources. King Philip's War marked a significant and violent clash between English settlers and Native American tribes, illustrating the breakdown of diplomacy and escalating tensions in the region. This conflict reshaped relationships and territorial claims. The War of Jenkins' Ear highlighted rising tensions between British and Spanish colonists, revealing how European conflicts spilled over into North America. This war further devastated local native populations caught in the crossfire. The 7 Years' War, known as the French and Indian War in America, involved multiple European powers and escalated into the largest land conflict of its time. It dramatically changed North America's geopolitical landscape. The Royal Proclamation of 1763 aimed to stabilize relations with Native Americans by limiting westward colonial expansion. This act frustrated colonists who believed they were entitled to lands gained through warfare. Colonial resentment intensified due to British taxation without representation, sparking protests and the formation of groups like the Sons of Liberty. This growing discontent foreshadowed the American Revolution and calls for autonomy. The Boston Massacre underscored the violent conflict between colonists and British troops, resulting in 5 colonist deaths and fueling anti-British sentiments. This incident became a pivotal moment in American history. The actions of the Sons of Liberty, including the Boston Tea Party, galvanized public opinion against British policies, showcasing the colonists' resolve to resist. These acts of defiance were crucial in the push for independence. The Intolerable Acts comprised punitive measures taken by Parliament in response to colonial unrest, further unifying the colonies against British rule and leading to the formation of the First Continental Congress. The American military grappled with a lack of training and resources, especially against the well-equipped British forces. Washington's leadership proved critical during these early struggles. The Declaration of Independence, primarily penned by Thomas Jefferson, articulated the colony's reasons for separating from Britain. This document transformed the conflict's perception from rebellion to revolution. The alliance with France was vital for American success, providing critical military support and legitimacy. This partnership strengthened after key victories, including Saratoga. The Constitution was ratified by states between 1787 and 1788, marking a significant shift from the Articles of Confederation. This change sought to establish a stronger federal government. The Federalist Papers, published in 1787, promoted the Constitution and shaped public opinion. Key figures like Hamilton and Madison were instrumental in advocating for its ratification. Washington's presidency set essential precedents, from domestic policies to foreign relations, laying a foundation for future administrations. His choice to step down after 2 terms influenced presidential tenure. The Siege of Fort McHenry during the War of 1812 inspired Francis Scott Key to write a poem that later became the national anthem. This event significantly fostered national pride among Americans. The Treaty of Ghent concluded the war without significantly altering territorial boundaries but solidified the U.S. position as a growing power, marking a definitive end to British territorial ambitions in America. The concept of manifest destiny emerged in the 19th century, fueling ambitions for westward expansion. This belief led to the displacement of Native American tribes and conflicts with European powers. Abraham Lincoln emerged as a prominent dissenter against manifest destiny, reflecting the political rifts within the nation during the mid-19th century. His views hinted at future conflicts regarding slavery. The concept of popular sovereignty became a contentious issue as new states formed, allowing settlers to determine the legality of slavery in their territories. This idea heightened national debates. The violence in Kansas, known as Bleeding Kansas, epitomized the struggles over slavery, resulting in significant bloodshed and emphasizing the deepening divisions between pro-slavery and anti-slavery factions. Lincoln's assassination in April 1865 plunged the nation into mourning and uncertainty about Reconstruction, crucial for rebuilding the South. His death shifted responsibility to Vice President Andrew Johnson, leading to tumultuous changes. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were pivotal in securing rights for African Americans, including citizenship and voting rights. However, social backlash and the rise of white supremacist groups impeded true equality. The Gilded Age, following Reconstruction, was marked by significant economic growth alongside stark socio-economic disparities. As immigrants flooded into the U.S., anti-immigrant sentiments intensified, illustrating complex societal changes. The federal government's response to the Pullman strike included deploying troops to quell violence, escalating tensions between workers and authorities. This intervention marked a critical turning point in U.S. labor relations. In the aftermath of the strike, the Pullman Company divested its company town, reflecting growing scrutiny on corporate practices and labor treatment during the Gilded Age. This change mirrored a broader push for labor reforms. During this period, muckrakers like Upton Sinclair and Ida Tarbell emerged, exposing harsh realities faced by workers and the corrupt practices of industrialists. Their efforts laid the groundwork for future labor reforms and regulations. One significant reform was the establishment of social settlements like Hull House, providing essential services to impoverished immigrants. This initiative aimed to improve living conditions and education. The Progressive Era introduced constitutional amendments, such as the 16th and 17th, aimed at democratizing elections and creating a fairer tax system. These changes were crucial for enhancing governmental accountability. The fight for women's suffrage gained momentum during this period, culminating in the passage of the 19th Amendment in 1920. This legislation marked a significant milestone in women's rights and political participation. Victory gardens were promoted by the U.S. Food Administration to help families economize food during the war, emphasizing a societal push for self-sufficiency. This initiative illustrated community efforts to support the war effort. The arrival of American troops in France was crucial for boosting Allied morale and significantly contributed to military strategies during the war. This influx of troops was vital for turning the tide against German forces. The Roaring Twenties marked a cultural shift with increased urban living and access to consumer goods, though it also deepened divisions among societal groups, leading to nativism and racial tensions. These changes set the stage for both economic prosperity and social conflict. The construction of the Empire State Building symbolized optimism before the stock market crash, even as it faced challenges due to the Great Depression. Initially, this iconic structure stood mostly vacant due to a lack of office space demand. The Dust Bowl of the 1930s exacerbated economic difficulties, forcing many families to migrate to cities in search of work. This environmental disaster severely affected agricultural production and contributed to the broader economic decline. Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal included the Works Progress Administration, which created millions of jobs in public works and the arts. The WPA not only aided employment but also resulted in numerous important infrastructure projects. The bomb dropped on Nagasaki, known as Fat Man, exploded with a force of 21 kilotons, causing immense destruction. This event followed the earlier bombing of Hiroshima, highlighting the catastrophic impact of nuclear warfare. The bombings resulted in an estimated 129,000 to 226,000 deaths, primarily among civilians, underscoring the tragic human cost of atomic warfare. The devastation sparked significant ethical debates about the use of such weapons. In the aftermath of the bombings, Japan expressed a willingness to surrender under specific conditions, leading to the formal end of World War II. This shift also marked the emergence of the United States as a global power. The boycott, lasting over a year, successfully led a federal court to rule against racially segregated seating, demonstrating the effectiveness of organized resistance. Despite achieving some victories, activists faced violent backlash, with attacks on black leaders and churches reflecting the intense resistance to integration efforts. The involvement of prominent figures like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. underscored the importance of nonviolent protest, which became essential for advancing civil rights. The USSR initially led the space race, achieving milestones like sending the first human, Yuri Gagarin, into space in 1961. This event heightened the urgency for the US to respond. In response to Soviet advancements, JFK announced the goal of landing a man on the moon by the end of the 1960s. This commitment spurred significant investments and public interest in space exploration. The Apollo 11 mission culminated in 1969 with Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin becoming the first men to walk on the moon. This moment was celebrated as a major victory for the US in the space race. President Bush's initiatives against drug abuse and the misleading portrayal of drug-related issues highlighted a stark contrast between public perception and reality. His administration focused spending on law enforcement rather than prevention. The Gulf War marked a pivotal moment in US foreign policy, showcasing a coalition of nations united against aggression to maintain oil supply security. The swift defeat of Iraq signaled a significant military presence in global affairs. The dot-com boom and subsequent bust illustrated the volatility of the tech industry, resulting in massive investor losses and an economic recession. This period reshaped the landscape of technology and investment in the United States.